I am here with Craig from Up the Cherries in All Departments, which is the name of his YouTube channel. Which, Craig, what's the abbreviation for that? I should know, really, shouldn't I?
It's Up the Cherries in All Departments.
And that,
UTCIAD.
there we go. So if you want to find him, that's where you find him. Go and use that. We'll put the link in the description below. Go. You won't need to do a little search, but if you want to do a little
Yeah.
search, type all that stuff in. How's the channel going, mate?
Yeah, it's going very, very, very well. Yeah, it's progressing. It's going quite quickly now. The subscriber count's going up. We're getting lots of views. We do our cherry picking content, which covers everything going on that week. And we've also had some special guests on as well. And like we were discussing,
We
we've
were
had
just
Harry
discussing.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had Harry on 8 times. Omid Jalili, he's not just a Chelsea fan, he's also Ipswich as well. We've had members of Five, Kasabian, the Blue Tones, Hard Fi, Ocean Colour Scene, Dodgy. I'm going to miss somebody out. Happy Mondays, and even David Icke. I tell you what, that was one of the most interesting afternoons I had. Doing that one, lots about his football career, and then it kind of went into the other stuff that everybody else probably wanted to tune in
Did he
for.
specify? Did he specify whether Julen Lopetegui was a lizard?
He didn't know, he didn't, but I could certainly put it to him. And maybe it might help David Sullivan make his final decision.
Yeah. Well, listen, we'll talk about West Ham a little bit later on in the
Yeah.
video. I think we've got to start with the amazing Cherries. Incredible. I
Mhm.
guess let's start, if you don't mind, with the decision to jettison El Sacchio loser Gary O'Neill. But before we get to Iraola, how was that perceived by you and your subscribers?
Do you know what? A lot of the Cherries faithful turned around and said, "We can't stand Gary O'Neill's football. It's
Okay.
boring. It's dull. It's miserable." I was probably one of the exceptions that you're speaking to here. That I was like, right, he's done a very, very good job. He's kept us in the Premier League. It's a side that is probably not that strong. It's definitely before that January window where we signed a lot of players. But to be honest, after that 9-0 hammering with Scott Parker against Liverpool, I went to that game. I gave us no chance of staying up. And Gary did that. Between that game and our defeat against Southampton, every other team in the Premier League had been beaten apart from Bournemouth. So it shows what a good job he did do. So, myself personally, yeah, the football wasn't great, but he got the results. It was effective football. Um, However, when Andoni Iraola did come in, my tune changed a little bit, put nicely. I think it was an opportunist move.
So how
So,
much did you know about him before he came in?
because I follow Spanish football, I knew quite a bit. I knew more about him than I did his team, Rayo Vallecano, which is effectively like the equivalent of Luton Town, getting them into the top flight. Of course, that was managed by Rob Edwards last season, but keeping them there, getting them into the European places. Okay, they did drop back down, but they beat Barcelona, they beat Real Madrid, they got positive results against Atletico Sevilla. So he was somebody that was definitely stood out to me, as somebody who'd done a great job. And I think it was an opportunist move. Andoni Iraola had become available. He actually honoured his contract at Rayo Vallecano. There is rumours that we did look at him when we did sack Scott Parker, but of course, a man of his word, he stayed there, and you know that loyalty, I think, did shine out to me as well. That's if that's true. Of course, it's all paper talk. Um, so Andoni Iraola, yeah, it did make sense. But I think Gary would still be here if Andoni had decided to stay at Rayo Vallecano or had a longer contract or something like that. We wouldn't have had this opportunity. At first, and just to bring it on to the start of last season, it didn't go to plan. Now, I don't think this is because of Andoni Iraola's style of football. The style of football is sexy. It's lovely, lovely football, high press. We was passing it around a lot. It wasn't working. Our defeat against Everton 3-0 at Goodison Park last season, for some reason, we always play shocking up there, was poor. Honestly, Gonzo, it was absolutely dire because we was passing around the back, we was making those mistakes, we was letting Everton in easy. What he did do, though, was he changed it up and mixed it up a bit, whilst the players also learned how to play in that style. I turned around at one point, said about Jesse Marsh coming in. I said, what about Jesse Marsh? Somebody who could get results by playing ugly, effectively. I thought we need points on the board if we're not going to be dragged into a relegation battle or go down. Of course, by going more direct, that's what clicked. After that Burnley win, of course, we went up to Old Trafford last season. We got a 3-0 win up there, which, to be honest, should have been 5. And it's just got better and better and better and better to the point where we are now, which we're actually dreaming. We're actually thinking we're 3 points off Man City in 4th. Now, don't get me wrong, Gonzo. I'm not going to turn around and say this very, very small club who plays in an 11,000-seater stadium are going to get into Champions League places. But to go to the back end of Moldova with this little club would be, some journey.
Yeah,
Let's just say it would beat Morecambe away.
yeah. Yes, well, yeah, one seaside town to another.
Exactly.
I guess in that sense. What's the style now then? You said that he started off sexy, became more pragmatic. What are you getting now?
It's still sexy football, but it's a lot more direct. It seems to be a lot quicker. I think what the biggest problem was at first, Gonzo, was we was trying to play like Arsenal. Now, Mikel Arteta, um, Xabi Alonso, of course, Iraola, and of course another manager that we'll probably mention in a moment, are all from the same area of the country. Now, I spoke to Mikel Ixtari a little while back, and yeah, he don't speak very good English. I had to translate it all, but managed to get there in the end. And it's something the Basque managers are known for. He was the former national coach of the Basque national team, which is like a micronation. They play in micronation competitions. But he actually sent me, and it's a shame I can't really share it because I've been asked not to by him, but he's actually sent me a book and it showed exactly what he trains managers, that high press, that intensity, if, say, for example, your opponent's got the ball, to make sure that you can win it back, to make sure that it's difficult for them to make their next move. Effectively, Mikel Ixtari is a chess master and he's training players who are going to become experts at chess. I'm useless at chess, but the thing is he's training the next people that are going to play and implement that style of football. And do you know what? Iraola, I look at that book and I look at what Iraola's done, it all makes sense. And yeah, we're very, very lucky to have him. But it's a very, very more direct style rather than your Arteta's pass, 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 pass. Not that it's ugly long ball football like Sean Dyche plays. It's just more intensity to get it up the pitch rather than looking for that next move, around the back.
That's interesting, Craig. I'd like to look at that book, quite frankly. Did you hear? I don't know how much of this rumor I've got right.
Yeah.
He's the same age as Arteta, and were they at the same school or something? Iraola and Arteta are close. There's something there. Have I sort of mixed up two different stories?
You've not mixed up two stories. Yeah, it is true. They're very, very close friends. They both know each other quite well. Whether or not they went to the same school is something I'd have to confirmed with Mikel. Mikel Ixtari, I don't think Arteta will really speak to me.
He's not, he's not coming on the podcast tomorrow, no.
Yeah. Mikel Arteta will be on here next week with me. But yeah, I think there is a very, very close relationship. They grew up together. They know the inside out of each other. They do play, like I say, very similar style of football. Arteta is a little bit more pass around the back, a bit more controlled, whereas Iraola is a little bit more direct, a little bit faster play. Don't get me wrong, we are still possession based, but we'll get up the pitch a lot quicker than Arsenal will.
Yeah, I love that. We had a similar thing years ago, not to compare Alan Pardew with Iraola, which is exactly what I'm about to do. But when he arrived at West Ham, he said, we're taking too long to build up. He said, I don't want to necessarily play, kick and rush sort of thing, but I'd like to see us attacking in 5 or 6 passes rather than 20. And it's something I always appreciated. I've always loved that kind of football. And I think he's definitely got his finger on the pulse of what Premier League football should be and what I believe certainly in the last season and a half has gone up a level. I think it's even quicker than it was. And I think he has acclimatized to that so quickly. Very shrewd. Before we talk about the team and the players, you've got an American owner.
Yeah.
Is there a buffer? Is there someone in the middle? Who identified Iraola? I'm struggling to see this guy flies over from the States, takes control of the club, and then got an intrinsic knowledge of one of the hottest up and coming coaches in Europe.
This is why, and it's a very, very good question, Gonzo. This is why we were absolutely petrified during the off season. So, Bill Foley, of course, American owner, took ice hockey to the desert. So he's a bold man. Let's be fair. Anybody that thinks, right, okay, I'm going to take ice hockey, a sport that should really be played in places with penguins, I'm going to stick it right into the middle of Las Vegas, is, got some nuts about them, put nicely. The person who was kind of the head person to pinpoint Iraola was a guy called Richard Hughes. Now, Richard Hughes was, and I've met Richard myself, a very, very nice, down-to-earth gentleman. He's very shrewd, very clever with what he gets. He's got his finger on the pulse. He's probably got spreadsheets of exactly when players that he wants are expiring, how he can get them for cheaper. He probably had Iraola's name up on there long before I'd even heard of him. Probably before, once he first arrived at Vallecano. He's a very, very, very clever man. Why I was so panicked was because Richard Hughes has gotten to Liverpool. And of course, Jurgen Klopp decided that he was going to throw in the towel at Liverpool. And I think we all kind of breathed a sigh of relief when Arne Slot was announced. And it was like, oh, thank God that's not going to happen, because we were petrified. Richard Hughes was the man behind Gary O'Neill being sacked. He was also the man behind Iraola. He had everything down to a T, that it happened within a day. Everything, it was just like clockwork. He knew what was going to happen. He was the main man. Now it is, you probably remember this man, Simon Francis, our former left back. Frano, again, really, really nice guy. But he's learnt from the best, and he seems to have learnt from the best. His business during the window was very good. Even in selling Solanke to Spurs, he made it difficult for them. He made it very, very difficult for them. The players that have been going out on loan, Chris Metham, for example, he's done very well with that. He's made sure that players are going on loan to championship sides who are they're going to help the championship side, but also maybe we can still have a look and see whether or not they can fit into Iraola's squad. Evan Nielsen, the signing of Evan Nielsen from Frano, again, very, very good bit of business. Although I was panicked at first, spending 40 million. You probably remember Gonzo. This football club didn't have two pennies to scratch his arse with years ago. Minus 17. Yeah. Spending 40 million was like, well, hold on a minute. That's, what if this doesn't, that was the first thing I thought was, what if this doesn't come off? It's all right for Man United to lose that, but AFC Bournemouth, yeah, it's a big, big chunk. So yeah, they're the two people that have been instrumental in between Bill Foley and Iraola and the squad. And to be honest, we've been lucky with both of them. Frano has learned everything, I think, from Richard Hughes. Neil Blake has to have a shout out as well. He was a great, he's a great CEO for the club. He's now moved up to the Black Knight Football Group, which I don't know if you're aware, but we have got partnerships with clubs like Hibernian. So Bill Foley owns part of Hibernian, Auckland, Lorient. They don't like him in Lorient, but he's there. Kyoto as well. So we're building this Manchester City model, and that's where Neil Blake is going to be involved in. So he's probably going to be pinpointing teams that we've never heard of, so we can get the best of their youngsters, and we can send players like Chris Metham off to play in some sunny shores, which I guess he won't mind.
It was highly impressive, Craig. I've got to say, just listening to you speak about the infrastructure of the club, about possibly the way that there is an evolution and a progression and a sort of handing over the baton, even if you lose somebody, the ethos carries on at the club. I think that's really highly admirable. I'm pleased for you. I've a big affection for Bournemouth, as I'm not a great one for second clubs. I don't think I would ever call anybody my second club, but as you alluded to, and some of our regular subscribers will know, I moved from Ilford, so we moved from from West Ham territory when I was 13, and we moved down to Boscombe, so we were less than a mile away from the ground. So I do remember you not having tuppence. I remember it all. I do remember all the struggles that the club have been through, certainly, and I'm pleased to see you thriving and doing well. And certainly as somebody that went down and watched the team under Harry Redknapp when Ian Bishop was there, when I was sort of 14, 15, 16. I'm pleased to see you're doing well, and I never ever thought that I would see Bournemouth up there. I was going to say the Premier League. There wasn't really a Premier League. I never thought football would become the way it has. But to think how rich football's become, see you up there and see you doing so well, I think is magnificent and a testament. And I am jealous in many respects, jealous of your organisation, jealous of maybe this portfolio of clubs that you're developing, of the foresight that clearly Foley has got, and certainly jealous of your manager. There's no doubt about that. As for which players should I be jealous of, though, Craig?
Anton Semenyo, for me, is been player of the season so far. And to be honest, there's shouts for pretty much every single player in our squad. Semenyo, though, is strong. He's fast. He's skillful. He's got an eye for a goal. When we signed him, do you know what, Gonzo? It's one of these weird situations where when we signed him, I thought, why are we signing him from Bristol City? I spoke to Mark McAdam, who I get on very, very closely with. Of course, he's on Sky Sports. And I think he was in agreement with me. He didn't say it outright, but he was in agreement with me that at Bristol City, Semenyo blew hot and cold. He doesn't anymore. Iraola has got the very, very, very best out of Anton Semenyo, and he's turned him into a absolute beast of a player who I think we've just got to enjoy him whilst we've got him. So he can play either on the right or the left side of midfield. He's very, very attacking. His crosses into the box are excellent. He's great at getting into the box. So he's a very, very talented player. Keep an eye out for Milos Kerkez. This is one player that we probably won't have much longer. Probably less chance of keeping him than Semenyo, actually. very ambitious Hungarian youngster, left back. And again, will get forward very, very quickly. His defensive work is excellent. You know, he makes the tackles at the right time. He makes the tackles at the right time, because when he does make that odd error, he probably ends up getting sent off. We've had a couple of those occasions so far with him, but he's a very, very good quality player. I could name them all, Gonzo, to be
Yep.
honest. Clivert, Lewis Cook, Ryan Christie works his heart out, 110% man every game. Not the most talented player in the squad, as you could say for Tavernier. Of course, he is injured for this game, so you won't have to put up with him. Dongo Watara, he's an interesting one, Dongo. He's a bit of a secret weapon. Now, I think he'll probably start against you guys because of Tavernier being out. But he's more effective off the bench. He's one of those players that he could do 9 things wrong and get one thing absolutely spot on that results in a goal. He's one of those. But again, a man that works his heart out. Evan Nielsen, fantastic up front. Smithy, right back. He's that bit of experience that we need with such a young side. And then we've got the centre of defence problem. Now, Senesi is out injured, so of course that means that it will be Ilya Zabanier. Thank God that he had a terrible Euros for the Ukraine in Germany, because, again, according to reports, both Real Madrid and Manchester City were sniffing, and I think it might have put them off. So, yeah, we was quite relieved about that one. And Dean Howson, ex-Juventus youngster, supposedly wasn't very happy because he was being kept out of the side by Senesi. Got his opportunity, scored a fantastic header against Spurs, absolutely beautiful header, and then kept everything that Spurs threw at him at bay. So it's a great side, a really, really good side. The only position I haven't mentioned is our goalkeeping position, which is up for debate. And to be honest, I'm in the Mark Travers camp. I think what he did against Manchester City, and saving from Haaland, I think, he's a quality goalkeeper. He should be number 1 in my mind. We have got Kepa in goal. His decisions, he's a great shot stopper, don't get me wrong, Gonzo, but some of his decisions, some of his positioning, he goes on a little wander. He has nearly got caught out, against Arsenal. For some reason, he did something really weird, wandered out onto the left-hand side of his box, lost the ball, managed to get back in time and made a good save in the end, but it could have been so much different. But yeah, I think Chelsea have got kind of a bit of a ring around our neck on that one, because I think whilst he's fit, he has to play so many games. But yeah, like I said, I could have named every single player in the squad, and I just have. So yeah, sorry, Gonzo, I probably covered everybody. Yeah, you should watch out for the whole team.
Well, we are.
It's a lot of quality. There's a lot of quality. We're so lucky, let's be fair. We was used to getting players on the bloody free, signing players on loan. We've even got a song about that. How Eddie Howe had to sign the players on loan, didn't have a penny to scratch his ass with. And, if we wanted to actually sign somebody permanently, we had to wait or, just pick the freebies.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible, and it's really nice to hear you speaking so warmly about your team, who you're quite obviously proud of, and and rightly so, because that's your inside knowledge from a distance. You're highly impressive. You really are, and yeah, would certainly you're certainly a team that I'm very, very worried about. No doubt about that at all. I'm going to get your opinions on West Ham in just a second. Before I do that, can I please point everybody in the direction of today's video sponsor, which is the Santa Co. Or the Santa Company, but we call it the Santa Co. Mums and dads, boys and girls, you can write a letter to Father Christmas, but not everybody gets a letter back from Father Christmas. And this is a way that you can get a letter back from the North Pole, personalised for your little boy or girl. Now, we've got a special discount for you here, because some of the people that work at the Santa Co are West Ham fans, believe it or not. We've got some ITKs in the North Pole. We've got some special links to Father Christmas. So what we can help you do is get some letters sent over. Now, What you got to do is use the link in the description below. It's the santaco.co.uk, which is even slightly more tenuous than Craig's email address. I can tell you that now, having just tried to type that in when we were meeting up before doing this video here. We're going to get you 30% off, or unless you're a Hammers Chat patron, you get 50% off by using the code Hammers Chat, all one word. Here's what you get. You get a personalised letter from the North Pole. Lovely, beautiful red envelope, nice thick paper, and it's personalised. It's as personal as you can make it. So if you take us up on this offer, give as much detail as you can about your son or your daughter. The more detail you get, the more personalised a letter can become. Let us know why they've been naughty or nice. It's all nice. No one's been naughty. We know that. Let us know what they want for Christmas. But go and claim your discount. Hammers Chat, all one word. And that's just the first thing. Go and have a little look around on the website. They've got a lot of really, really good stuff there. But if you want a bespoke, tailor-made letter from the North Pole, from Father Christmas himself, do so. One little extra as well. You get sent a QR code. So if you want, you scan a QR code, and that letter that has been written to your child can be read out by Father Christmas. It's a better voice than that, 'cause it's the real Father Christmas, not me trying to pretend to be Father Christmas. There you go. Links in the description below. That's Santa Co. Are you feeling particularly Christmassy with Monday coming up though, Craig, or are you a little bit worried that West Ham might be the Christmas Grinch?
I'm feeling Christmassy. I'm
Oh, yeah.
feeling Christmassy. Yeah. Although I do know the statistic that West Ham have not lost on a Monday night so far this season. So yeah, it might be, a double-edged sword. This, that we might be having. Yeah. Oh, who puts it on a Monday
Do you believe all
night?
that sort of stuff, by the way? It's so
Mm,
tenuous.
yeah, I think we've had situations in the past where we thought, oh yeah, we don't lose. No, yeah, we've just gone and blown it. So yeah, there we
Yeah.
go. Yeah, we had that a couple of years back, and yeah, we then got beat by Brighton. And yeah, that
Yes.
was that.
Yeah. Well, you're neck and neck actually. You and Brighton. That's so impressive.
Yes, yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on West Ham from an outsider looking at us this season? Do we look like a fan base that's having a hissy fit?
Can I be brutally honest,
No,
Gonzo?
we prefer it
Yeah.
if you do. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So a lot of my family are actually West Ham fans. So I think, from what they've said so far this season, and let's take it back to last year, there was a lot of discontent about Moyes. Now, Moyes was the last manager, of course, for years and years and years and years to actually win West Ham a European trophy. Um, okay, don't get me wrong, it was a little bit like the Gary O'Neill situation where the
Yes.
football wasn't beautiful, but it was effective. He got the job done. Um, I was surprised when he left. I know that there was, murmurings that, fans weren't happy with him because of the style of football. Lopetegui's come in, and I think it's been an absolute disaster. And why it's been an absolute disaster, firstly, he's too stubborn to change. Now, where Iraola realised, okay, things are going wrong, and of course, Julen Lopetegui is the other man that I was mentioning. He's from the Basque Country. Of course, Mikel Ixari does know him very well. He seems reluctant to change. He seems reluctant to actually use the West Ham players' abilities, in the way to get results. Um, in no way should West Ham be in the position that they are at the moment. You should be competing on par with us at the very, very least. With the squad that you've got, the squad has got tons of quality. He doesn't know how to use certain players. It's quite obvious of that. The signings and the players that have come in, again, some of them might have been a little bit disappointing, but he hasn't got the best out of them. There's all this stuff that's coming out in the press about his arguments with Tadibo, I believe it is,
Yes.
which, again, should not be happening at a football club like West Ham. So my honest opinion here is that West Ham needs to make the change. I thought, regardless of that Wolves game, which, don't get me wrong, we beat Wolves 4-2. Everton absolutely
Hmm.
annihilated Wolves. And we know how crap Everton are because we was 2-0 down against them, and in 8 minutes we come back 3-2. So Everton, a poor side, for them to then beat Wolves 4-0. I saw the game between yourselves and Wolves, and I hate to say this, Gonzo, it wasn't so much that West Ham were a better side than Wolves. It was more who was the least poor, who was the
Yeah.
least, suspectable at the back. Wolves have been leaking goals all season. We knew that West Ham were going to get a couple. Um, we didn't. To be honest, I thought the defending for Wolves' goal was poor. I thought it was poor. It was probably on par with what I saw for Wolves against ourselves. And most definitely, Wolves against Everton, that was terrible. Terrible performance from Wolves. So I expected you to win the match, but I thought that Lopetegui would still go. I thought that he had that dreaded vote of confidence. I think, it's quite clear that it's not just a 2 minute, thing. It's been a long ongoing situation. It's not got any better. He has been reluctant to change. The thing that saved him is that he's got the results when he's needed the results, like against Wolves, like against Newcastle. Um, yeah, it's not good enough. There's no consistency. What Lopetegui needs to do is go on a run. He can't just go and beat Bournemouth or Wolves or whoever and then, lose the next 5 games. He has to be consistent. Yeah, there's going to be some games where you're going to have to get draws. But, at the same time, if he was to win on Monday night, I think it would be a stay of execution, like the Wolves result was a stay of execution. Um, because I don't think he's going to get any better, regardless, if he wins Monday night or not. I just sorry to say that.
No, no,
I,
no, no,
well,
no,
I
no.
can't see, you know, like I could refer back to that book. Mikel Starry explains how his managers and how you should adapt and change dependent on the other side. We're in a lucky position we've never been in before, where we're able to dictate the style of the play that is played in a certain match. We never used to be like that. We never used to be like that. We would always be on the back foot and thinking Eddie Howe would have to kind of find a situation to stop the other team. Um, Lopetegui has kind of put himself in the situation where his side's good enough to dictate. The West Ham side is good enough to dictate the style of
Yeah, for sure, for
football,
sure. Yeah, yeah.
but he's just putting himself on the back foot. So, yeah, I think the sooner he's gone, the sooner West Ham fans can move on, and the sooner things will improve.
Do you think, just to before we wrap things up, do you think
Mm.
that Iraola is ready? Do you think Iraola will have a plan for Lopetegui specifically and for Lopetegui's West Ham?
Yeah, I think we'll play the high press. I think
Mm.
we'll play the high press. I think the intensity will be there. Um, I think Lopetegui might put up a little bit more of a fight than he has done against certain teams, but, and it's a big but, I think that again he won't be willing to change. I think Lopetegui will stay very rigid to what he wants to do, which hasn't been working. Let's be honest, it hasn't been working. You know, um, beating Wolves, is you'd expect West Ham to beat Wolves.
Yes.
You'd expect West Ham to beat Wolves, especially based on how many players Wolves have sold and what a sort of mess they're in, which a lot of it I don't put down to Gary O'Neill at all. But, even if he was to beat Bournemouth, it is a stay of execution. And I think Iraola will be able to mix up his style. He will change things. He'll change things on the night. And all of us I'll tell you what, Gonzo, here's another big question for you, and I want to throw it back to you. Iraola's substitutions, when he brings on a player, all make sense. All make complete and utter sense. And I've got my own opinions on West Ham substitutions for you, but they all make sense. You can already see, okay, David Brooks is, warming up. He's going to replace that player, and it happens. And he adjusts the team, and the lineup and the formation based on what is happening. Do you feel that Lopetegui's substitutions make sense, or do you think he's just throwing stuff at a wall at this moment in time?
Well, he's a lot better than the last guy, because Moyes almost had a stubborn refusal to make substitutions. So when the new rule came in that you could use more than 3 subs, he did 2 separate interviews where he basically said didn't like the new rules. He wanted it to go back the way he was, rather than adapt. Okay, we're in a situation. Some people saw it as opportunity. These additional, a bigger bench, more subs to bring on. He just wanted to go back to the old days. The thing is about David Moyes, and it's interesting listening to your perception of West Ham, and so much of what you say is absolutely right.
Yeah.
It wasn't, but a lot of people say this, West Ham fans wanted rid of David Moyes because of the style of football. It wasn't just that. A lot of fans were leaning that way. I think that the fact that what really killed him off was in the last season, we were awful. We were, Fulham would put 5 past us, Palace would put 5 past us, Arsenal put 6 past us. What he was doing wasn't working anymore. So it wasn't, I think you will always accept a style of football if it yields results. David Moyes last season, it stopped to yield results. That was ultimately what killed him off in that sense. So when Lopetegui came in, we thought, we've got someone who's going to make substitutions. If things aren't working out, he'll do substitutions at half time. I think there's 2 answers to your question. Firstly, so I think we were pleased with that. There was an improvement on it.
Yeah.
The problem is a lot of his substitutions are fixing his own mistakes in terms of the tactical selection of the starting lineup. The second part of your question is you said that when you see David Brooks warming up, you know where he's going to play.
Yes, yeah.
I think because he can have lots of people warming up and he can make lots of substitutions. As I've said, he doesn't mind making subs. You probably don't know what the hell's going to happen.
Yeah.
Unless there's one. If you see Soufal warming up, you won't see this because Emerson's suspended.
Yeah.
If you see Soufal warming up, you know it's Emerson coming on. Soufal's going to go to right back and Wan-Bissaka's going to go to left back. But anything else could be a muddle. So you see, I don't know what's going on here. He could very easily, take off a striker, put on a Guido Rodriguez, who's a very, very slow defensive midfielder, and anything sort of goes. So I'm pleased he's making substitutions. I'm sure most West Ham fans would accept that, but we don't really know what's happening. A lot of it is him making rectifying his own mistakes, and he doesn't necessarily rectify his own mistakes. The other thing I'd say is it's interesting, a stay of execution. I don't think anyone thinks that he's going to see out his contract. So it's interesting your take on that. I think what is interesting though would be if we did beat you, and I don't think we will. That would be back-to-back wins, and I know everything you said about the Wolves game is absolutely correct, by the way. And in fact, you left a couple of things out, which was they deserved a penalty, at least a penalty for that. So VAR went in our favour on that day. But putting back-to-back wins together is so important in the Premier League. I think that might buy him a little bit more on a stay of execution, because for the first time in a long time, I think we're looking up. We could catch, if we beat you and results went in our favour, we could go above Manchester United, we could go above Tottenham, we could go above Newcastle. Sounds preposterous. So any other fans say, well, what are you whinging about then? And actually, we can't be caught. So I think there's a 4-point buffer zone to the teams below us. But we need back-to-back wins for that to happen. And I think, it's tough. It's tough to believe that can happen, because what he's given us so far hasn't instilled enough faith in us as fans, in his tactics and his team selection. I think we're going to be wide open at the back. I think you're going to run in behind us. Hearing you say you think you're going to press us quite aggressively terrified me when you said it. I can see it. I can see it in my mind's eye. I can see you running in between the right back and the central defender, the right centre back. I can see it now. I can see it happening. yes, the goal we conceded against Wolves was everything that is wrong with West Ham there. But then you could also say that. So you could say that about any number of games. So yeah, with that in mind, can I get a score prediction from you, please? And a few final words, maybe.
Of course, no problem at all, Gonzo. So I'm not going to bet against my own team. I never do it. I never do it. You know, I've come out with some ridiculous results, scorelines in the past, you know, where I said, oh, yeah, every single time, oh, yeah, we'll beat Man City. We'll beat Man City. We've finally done it. We've
Yeah,
finally
yeah.
done it this year after God knows how many years. Um, I'm going to go for a 3-1 Bournemouth win. You know, I think you will get a goal. I am a big fan of Crescenzio Somerville. I wanted him here, you know, and people that I've spoken to so far, West Ham fans, have said that he's probably the silver lining in what is a very, very dark cloud hanging over the London Stadium this season. So, yeah, he's a good player, and he's one that we definitely need to keep an eye out for. Um, but personally, I think Semenyo will grab one. I think Justin Kluivert, and I think Evan Nielsen as well. But it's been, to be honest, Gonzo, this has been an absolutely fantastic season so far. Um, we could have been on a few more points than we actually are. You know, we should have beaten Newcastle had it not been for a dodgy VAR decision. Um, we should have beaten Chelsea. In all honesty, we had enough opportunities. Evan Nielsen just, I think he struggled at first,
I saw
and
it.
then
Yes, I saw
yeah,
it. Yeah, yes, I did. Saw that one. Yeah.
yeah, we was hammering on the door. And to be honest, when Nkunku got his goal, you know, we couldn't complain. We couldn't complain because we'd missed so many opportunities. It
You
was
were
a well
all over
taken.
them in the first half.
Oh
All
yeah,
over them. Yeah.
yeah. It should have been 2-3-0
Did
from
he,
that
I think in
first
that one
goal.
he brought Sancho on as well, and I think Sancho and Nkunku
Yeah,
changed the flow of the game, didn't
yeah,
they?
they
Yeah.
did. Yeah, and Leicester away. You know, again, we should have beaten them. We were all over them. Again, you know, we were just very, very unlucky in the end, that we didn't get the result there. And it was Evan Nilsson, unfortunately, not being able to hit the target, but he's in full flow now. So, yeah, my aspirations, I'm hoping Europe, but Gonzo, it's been an absolute pleasure to be on here, and thank you so, so much for inviting me. And yeah, no doubt we'll have to do this again, mate.
100%, mate. 100%. Been brilliant. Been brilliant. And yeah, we were having a chat, myself and Craig having a chat beforehand, and it turns out that actually with two different parts in our lives, myself and Craig have like lived quite near each other actually as well. So yeah, mate. Honestly, been best of luck to your channel. Up the cherries in all departments. I'll put the link in the description below. Go check that out, even if just to watch Craig's interview with David Icke, which I'm very very interested to see at what point, because obviously David Icke was a footballer and a football commentator. And at some point, he turned into a conspiracy theorist. So I'm very interested to see at what point that interview starts.
Do you know
Starts
what
going
in the
away.
intro? Do you know what in the intro? I realised watching it back. I thought, oh, I've made a monumental cock up, and it always happens. You know, I've left it in there because actually somebody commented on it, and it's quite funny. But I didn't call him a conspiracy theorist. I called him a conspiracist theory, which I guess you could probably say
Yeah.
both arguments are actually quite true.
Yes.
Yeah, just in styles. I don't know how he felt about like that one. Maybe he might
No,
not come
well,
on
there
again.
you go. Well, I'll finish. Craig, thanks again, mate. Thank you very much
Thanks
indeed.
so much.
And I'm just going to finish on this. My own conspiracy theory is, of course, that West Ham were almost slightly disappointed that we didn't pick up the loss against Wolverhampton Wanderers, because I still think that West Ham have got Graham, not Harry Potter, lined up to replace Lopetegui, and I think it could happen quite soon. Thanks for tuning in.